斯里兰卡是个位于印度洋上的热带岛国，英联邦成员国之一。它形如印度半岛的一滴眼泪，镶嵌在广阔的印度洋海面上，有宝石王国、印度洋上的明珠等美称，被马可·波罗认为是最美丽的岛屿。大航海时代，斯里兰卡处在扼守要道的黄金地段，东西文明在此交汇融合。那么，这个拥有悠久历史的亚洲岛国到底有着怎样的独特魅力？斯里兰卡与中国的渊源又是从何时开始？本期节目，我们走进美丽的斯里兰卡，去听听古代丝绸之路与斯里兰卡相遇的故事，领略大洋岛国的海域风情，感受与时代和谐交融的人文之美，以及斯里兰卡驻华大使科迪图瓦对“一带一路”战略的看法。斯里兰卡位于印度洋上，有着美丽绝伦的海滨、神秘莫测的古城、丰富的自然遗产以及独特迷人的文化。历史上，斯里兰卡在印度洋处于一个至关重要的位置，连接着东西方的丝绸之路，是重要的国际贸易枢纽。时至今日，斯里兰卡仍然处在一个战略性的位置，在海洋的中心掌握了生存的法则。可以说，斯里兰卡是衡量印度洋安全平衡形势的秤杆，对世界和平、国际贸易有着至关重要的作用。这块镶嵌在印度洋上的亚洲宝石，在历史的演进中将传统与现代融合，表达着多元与包容。而斯里兰卡与丝绸之路的不解之缘，则要从遥远时代的贸易船只开始说起。
Your Excellency, Mr. Karunasena Kodituaku, the Ambassador of Sri Lanka here in China. When we look at the map and we see Sri Lanka, we could say it's in a really good position between, let's say, the Indian Ocean. So, and it has always been like that. Also in history, we have the Silk Road, the relations between the East and the West. So, could you tell us a little bit more about the history of Sri Lanka during that time, during the historical time of the Silk Road?
Historically, Sri Lanka has played a very vital role in Indian Ocean, particularly in the maritime Silk Road or international trading at that time, of course, not a big volume as it is now. But according to our records, very clearly indicate that it's not only Sri Lanka was a part of the international trade, Sri Lanka has become an international trade hub. According to our records, very clearly says, ships from Ethiopia, ships from Persia, ships from various kingdoms of India. There was no India at that time, one kingdom, but number of kingdoms were there in that India, and particularly China. Many ships have come to Sri Lanka. Traditional ports, not the Colombo port. Historically, we have used two ports north of Colombo, about 100 kilometers north of Colombo, and another 100 kilometers of south of Colombo. To those two ports, many ships have come with trading goods. There are two historical evidence. One is Chinese Buddhist monk, Reverend Fahian, visited Sri Lanka exactly 16 centuries ago, 411 AD, 411 after death of Christian era. He has mentioned, when he returned after 2 years spending in Sri Lanka, he has published his experience. He has mentioned very clearly two things. One is Chinese silk, that was how this name came, Silk Road. Silk was available in Sri Lankan market. Second thing he has mentioned, Chinese fan, which used at the summertime people. One of the devotees who have come to the temple has donated him. In addition to that, in Sri Lanka, one of the World Heritage site called Sigiriya, the rock painting. In the rock painting were done in 5th century, that's around 400 to 500. And it is paintings of beautiful ladies. That is one of them. You can see in my wall. And behind sugar. And those who have visited these paintings were so fascinated about the beauty of these paintings, have written number of verses. In one of the verses it has mentioned the clothes they are wearing, these ladies are wearing, the beauties are wearing is Chinese silk. What this I want to highlight is, even 16 centuries ago, there were records in Sri Lanka which indicate very clearly Chinese silk was in our market, Sri Lankan market. In addition to that, number of historical sites, excavation has revealed or excavation has found number of Chinese coins which they have used. Therefore, historically, of course, we had exchange envoys between with the Emperor of the Rome, Emperor of China. Then the trading had been done. Even Arabs came to Sri Lanka to find spices. Sri Lanka was at that time, there were no tea. But in Sri Lanka there were ivory, there were gems, there were spices. So Sri Lanka was historically playing a very important role in international trade. In today's terms, if you use, Sri Lanka is located in a very strategical position in Indian Ocean. Still it is known that the aviation is playing a very vital role now. Even the land routes are playing a very vital role in international trade. But still, without any doubt we can say, 2/3 of world traded goods in the world markets, international trade, are moving on ships. So in that context, it's more than the Atlantic Ocean, more than the Pacific Ocean. Indian Ocean is surrounded by India, China, Africa. So Sri Lanka has in a very fortunate position to play a very vital role in the future, as we have done in the past, in the historically.
So you could say it has always been this great trade hub.
Naturally, that's right. Even, of course, we must say that when Chinese ships visited Sri Lanka at the beginning of 15th century, the well-known Admiral of China, Zheng He, has visited 6 or 7 times. He has gone with more than 25,000 people, but they never invaded Sri Lanka. But they had only trade relation, political relations, that's all. But because of our strategic position, location, the Western powers which started colonizing the world at the 16th century, so they came to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka became a target. Part of Sri Lanka, the coastal line, was invaded by Portuguese. They had the gun power. But in the Asian societies, maybe China is a different, but in our part of the world there was no gun. They were fighting with swords and all these traditional things, and they were able to capture coastal line of Sri Lanka. Then Dutch came in the 18th century or 17th century. Then finally British came in at the end of the turn of the 19th century. And finally Sri Lanka was occupied by British for about 150 years. Therefore, because of that, our strategic location to control the Indian Ocean or to overlook the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka's position was very, very vital. In fact, when ASEAN was formed, Sri Lanka was invited to join, but at the beginning ASEAN was formed to meet a political challenge. But Sri Lanka being a non-aligned country, Sri Lanka did not join ASEAN. But now even all powers in the world, with maybe United States. In the past 50 years ago, maybe United Kingdom. Now it's now emerging powers, China, India. They are very concerned about Indian Ocean and Sri Lankan's relationship with each other, whether they would, our position would upset the balance of the security situation in Indian Ocean. So Sri Lanka's position, strategic location is becoming more and more important to the world peace, international trade. But Sri Lanka being a country which declared as a non-aligned country from the 1950 onwards, we will use our position always to promote the world peace, to promote the globalization, to promote education and cultural exchanges.
近10年来，中国通过不同的政策，在各个领域对斯里兰卡进行着投资，以友好的方式进行双边的贸易。斯里兰卡人均 GDP 不高，旅游业则成为弥补贸易差距的主要来源。中国也越发重视在这一方面的投资。斯里兰卡靠近欧亚国际货运主航线，在转运、中转和补给等方面具有天然的优势。随着印度洋贸易通道功能得到越来越多国家的重视，斯里兰卡的战略作用也备受关注。与南亚其他国家相比，斯里兰卡在交通条件、人口素质、法律制度、商业环境等方面都更胜一筹。这里已发展成为亚太地区最具吸引力的投资地之一。中国作为世界上第2大经济体，将会深化与斯里兰卡的合作，实现合作共赢。
So I would not understand that China and Sri Lanka have been really good friends, that the relations have been really cordial since the 50s. What then about, let's say, Chinese projects in Sri Lanka, investments? I've understood that the Chinese invested quite a lot in the Colombo Free Port, in other infrastructure, other ports in South Sri Lanka, for instance, and airports. So could you tell us more about these?
Yes, China particularly in the last 10 years, China came forward to assist Sri Lanka, cooperate with Sri Lanka to construct infrastructure projects, as you correctly mentioned. They built some of the highways, they built some of the airports, seaports, and various projects they were doing on concessional loans. Of course, you are aware that the concessional loans has to always come with the blessing of the government. So Chinese government cooperate with the Chinese banks to lend to us, and Chinese companies, particularly in the construction field, they undertook those contracts and of course now we think that while we would welcome their cooperation in construction field, now we need more and more direct investment in the field of manufacturing, in the field of service sector, maybe in the high-tech sector, even maybe in the hotel sector. Now we need direct foreign investment from China. The construction piece, they did very well, and still we need their support to fulfill some of the construction projects which we have to construct in the future. But now we need more than that direct investment into various fields. In addition to that, of course, China and Sri Lanka doing trade bilaterally very excellent manner. Now we are negotiating a free trade agreement. We hope that at the end of this year we would be able to conclude that free trade agreement. At the moment the trade volume is around a little more than $4 billion US, but it's much in favor of China. This is natural because the Chinese economy is the second largest economy in the world. Our economy is, our total GDP is only $80 billion US with a 20 million population. Maybe even the Beijing GDP is much bigger than our national GDP. But we are not unhappy about that because it's understandable. The trade gap is always in a favor of the big economy, large economy. But we are very happy that at least to compensate that trade gap, more and more Chinese are visiting Sri Lanka as tourists. In 2014, it was only little more than 100,000 Chinese went to Sri Lanka. That figure went up by another 100,000 in 2015. About 215,000 visited Sri Lanka in year 2015. Within first 4 months of this year, about 100,000 visited Sri Lanka, and this trend will continue. We hope that during year 2016, we would be able to welcome 300,000 Chinese tourists. So that's how we expect, and in addition to that, Chinese investment in the tourism sector has commenced. Shangri-La has built a very big hotel complex. Really, they constructed 2 hotels. One was opened only a few weeks ago, and second one will be opening, I think, in middle of next year. See, we hope that with more than 100 million Chinese tourists are visiting other countries annually, we feel that in the near future, this trade gap, which is much in favor of China, would be partly set off by Chinese tourism.
中国推动“一带一路”战略，推动区域互联互通。斯里兰卡在这其中将成为南亚地区整体项目里非常重要的一个节点。斯里兰卡将在抓住机遇、利用优势的同时，提供一个商品交易的平台，建立南亚金融中心。斯里兰卡独特的形状和特殊的地理位置，吸引了众多国家与之进行贸易往来，对世界贸易繁荣起着促进作用。斯里兰卡虽然不大，但在印度洋上扮演着非常重要的角色。“一带一路”的开展将发挥斯里兰卡的地理优势，对保持国家之间友好关系、增进国家之间的理解与合作有不可小觑的作用。斯里兰卡也将尽一切可能促进全球一体化，促进地区之间的政治理解，为实现人类未来能够生活在一个更好的世界而努力。
Also related to this One Belt, One Road initiative, and we can see that it's a huge undertaking in many different continents. So what would you see, what does it tell about China's new position in world politics?
China has to play a very vital role. It's the most populous country in the world. Second thing is the second largest economy. And the way it's moving, if they would maintain this 6 to 7% GDP growth, even within few decades it will be the largest economy in the world. So when it becomes the largest economy in the world, as I mentioned, they also have to depend on other markets. They have to sell their products. They have their own excess liquidity. They have to invest somewhere. And therefore, China very correctly realized its responsibility when it emerged as a second largest economy. So the prosperity they can't enjoy continuously living in an isolated world. So fortunately, China has its own experience working with other nations. With the Silk Road, not only when you think about the Silk Road, not only is a maritime Silk Road, there was a land Silk Road which connects China to the Europe through countries in the Central Asia and the Eastern Europe. So historical obligation or historical experience had been used very wisely by the Chinese political leadership to play a bigger role in the world. There is a maritime silk or land silk route, it doesn't mean only creating a road. On this road, trade must continue. people-to-people relation must continue. Not only that, even the technological transfer must continue. And even the exchanges in the field of education and culture is very vital to create a better understanding among the people. Chinese leadership has understood this obligation, and it's up to other countries, particularly the countries which live on, which are located connecting this historical maritime Silk Route as well as land Silk Route, to accept the hand of friendship extended by Chinese government. So we have Sri Lanka, as I mentioned, not only Sri Lanka, I must say, even other countries in our South Asia. We know that even India and China is now working together. India and Pakistan is working together in our part. Bangladesh, Myanmar, even East Asian, Southeast Asian countries, even as I mentioned, African countries, they all have understood, even in the Pacific, Australia, New Zealand. So in this part, even now, of course, China is, though there were no historical maritime Silk Route with the American, North America or South America, but now they have built up very big, good relations between those countries. So China has understood its obligation towards the world. They are using historical experience to renew it. In addition to that, they are making new intros to other parts of the world. So it is up to the countries which connects itself with the traditional or historical Silk Route to use the opportunity and to interact with not only with the political leadership, to interact with the economic entities, and to use that opportunity, create more income and more employment opportunities for their own people. So Sri Lanka is, as I mentioned, historically we were involved in international trade, and we have to continue with that, because being a small economy with 20 million population, we can't produce on economic scale anything just targeting our own market. Whatever we are producing, we have to target about the market elsewhere. So it's an interdependent world. So China, being the most populous country and with the second largest economy, has understood this obligation. As I mentioned, they have extended the hand of friendship towards other countries which are located in the traditional Silk Road. So we must realize that if we want to survive, we have to live together, and we have to reciprocate by accepting the hand of friendship which has been extended by China.
So now about this hand of friendship, how would you now see the future of the project, the initiative, let's say in 15 years? How will it work out, and what will be Sri Lanka's position in this new system?
No, whatever projects we have initiated or established has to continue, because now, as I mentioned, finally, whether project is done by funded by foreign government or funded by local budgets or by their own finance, it has to be run on economic terms. So in the future, you have to create a situation which will provide very competitive market condition. Otherwise, no economy can continue. We know what happened to the Soviet Union. It was a huge country, which a land mass is the largest country, and finally they were not able to sustain the economy. They had a lot of welfare facilities for the people, but to pay the bill of welfare facilities You have to earn at somewhere else. So finally, it's economics what matters. So to survive the economy of a national economy or a micro level some operation, you must generate sufficient income or sufficient rate of return for your investment. So even in the future, even today or even the future, if you can't run a project or business enterprise, may be owned by the government, may be owned by the corporate sector, it has to run on economic terms. If you can't get the correct amount of dividends for your investment, that investment will not remain. The experience, we know that, as I mentioned, the experience of Soviet Union. Therefore, even in the future, you have to be more and more efficient. Better business practices must be adopted. Professionals must come to management of these entities. As I mentioned, the ownership of the projects or companies is irrelevant. What relevant is the management. So therefore, say if you take as example the Chinese investment, whether investment had been within the country or whether investment had been elsewhere, wherever it is, it has to be run on economic terms. Otherwise, that entity can't sustain or continue as a project. Similarly, the countries can't continue with their own projects if they do not get sufficient income. Therefore, this is a very challenging job, running the economy, because now governing a country doesn't mean only political aspects. Governing a country is a very vital in fulfilling the aspiration of the people. The people's aspiration, they may be having their spiritual aspiration, but before spiritual aspects is a day-to-day survival. Bread and butter, if you use the very simple word. If economy is not in a position to provide the bread and butter to his own people, that country can't survive. So, what I want to tell with regard to the investment which would come to countries from China or from the Western world or from their own corporate sector, it has to be managed in an efficient manner, not to become a burden to the economy. So the responsibility is a continuing responsibility, continuing challenge.
斯里兰卡眼中的中国是个富有生命力与创造力的国家，在当前世界中扮演着重要的角色。在这相互依存的世界，没有任何一个国家是独立的个体。即使是国内生产总值生长迅速的中国，依旧要和其他市场合作出售自己的产品，将剩余流动资产投资到别处。丝绸之路的重要性与优越性日益显著，路的继续是交流的连通，技术的传递也是友谊之手的连接。斯里兰卡尊重中国，并会以不同的方式配合中国，支持中国，对与中国合作未来的发展充满了信心。在这古文明统治过的土地上带来的古朴自然文化氛围，将与中国博大精深的思想相融，共同追求互惠共赢的发展空间，实现真诚互助、世代友好的战略合作伙伴关系。这个有着2000多年历史沉淀的古老国度，会迎着时代的光芒越走越辉煌。